Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 6 of the build guide 2. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Thanks so much for all the support last week. You guys are absolutely smashing all the comments on this series, like just so many to read and reply to. It's like nothing I've ever experienced on the channel. So thank you for all the support, lots of ideas about what should happen with this network as it grows out. However, we're going to have to wait to implement them because today's build is going to be industrial. We have extreme industry demand in the city, so it's time to turn to the second of our industry's DLC builds today. And this is going to be the forestry. So forestry, really fun one to build, my favourite probably because it's the most green. And we have a really nice position here to play with some new forestry ideas against our highway, which is always a really nice orientation for positioning kind of large industrial assets against. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's piece together Orchard Bay's forestry, shall we? So starting from where we left off last episode, we're going to come in and grab some of this 6-lane road with median, and let's just redraw what we have so we can plan it out a little bit better. So at this point here, I know eventually the roads are going to go off this direction once we pop 81 tiles. We'll probably have some form of build out here. There's a little lake here, okay, maybe a little fishing town or something, a little tourist town in the mountains. So to plan for that eventuality, I would like a roundabout in here as well. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we can upgrade all of these. These can just be 4-lane for right now, and we'll go somewhere eventually, but that will be decided, of course. And then let's grab one of our new roads. Let's go for a 6-lane road with grass median here, and let's go for a pretty significant distance. Let's go for that one there, and then we'll do a curve. And we can plan in this kind of arterial road now that's going to flow through all these areas and collect into different towns. And I eventually envision probably another highway interchange down there just for that extra connectivity, but we're a little while away from planning that. So of course, let's draw out our both district and industrial areas. We want both, of course, because we're going to want to use the vanilla forestry alongside the DLC forestry today. So please do, as always, get your suggestions down for the name suggestion of Orchard Bay's forestry area. We'll let you guys choose this one. Hopefully some pretty creative suggestions with it being forestry and orchids, of course. I guess they're at least part of the same, well, genus, I hope. Probably not. We're going to get some angry plant people in the comments. Cool, so let's start bringing out this road now, and we'll dive into the wonderful world of forestry. So let's go ahead and place down our main building. And I think I'm just going to have this here, simply on the corner as a nice little entrance into the area, and then we can start playing with some ideas here. So let's come up by 30 tiles, that should be good enough, okay, and then we'll just start drawing out some frames, so we can start piecing together some ideas. So with forestry, it can be really handy to just sort of position things first, and then allow the networks to come in and hold them, so we'll kind of talk about what I mean by that. So I've got a small tree plantation here, which is the only small tree plantation that I have at the minute. I will eventually switch these out for sapling fields because I don't like the tree plantations at this particular orientation. But let's place them down. Again, if you are missing the Industries DLC, please check out links below to Instant Gaming. It's super cheap now, and it does help support the channel. So we can have this here, which would allow me to turn it around, but I want to come one road length measurement shorter, because that's then going to give me a little bit of room behind what will eventually be a tree sapling field for some fence in here, but we're going to have to wait a little bit of time before we get that, okay? But of course it's forestry, so we need to provide its natural resource, so let's actually go ahead and paint out some build guide brush so we can harvest the trees underneath. I'm probably going to have processing here as well, so let's do it here. Okay, and then we can always trim off what we don't need at the end. So let's place these down. We'll go for 1, 2, 3, and 4. Can we get a 5th in? Let's see if we can do that. I need some more trees here though for extraction. Splendid. Cool. And then we'll wrap this up around that way. And that should do us a job. So let's get power and water over to these guys as well. Cool, so we got some temporary amenities to keep everyone satisfied, but really, of course, we want to just start moving through our levels now. So we want to make sure that we do have the capacity for 150 workers. We've only got 140 at the moment, and of course, the resources produced over time will just tick over time. So we have currently a sawmill, correct? Yes, we do. So let's see what we can do with our sawmills. So I think with Industry DLC, it's always fun to try and sort of separate processing from production and have different distinctive areas of the industrial area that are handling several parts of the process. So with that in mind, I'm going to place in a sawmill here. Okay. Now I like a couple of these. So let's see if we can amend our frames to accommodate that idea. Then we'll have some in there. So now the spaces between this are fantastic opportunities to specialize into our vanilla forestry over the regular district. And then let's zone up some industry in here as well. Okay, a couple of different shapes and sizes. We'll do some experimenting today as to what can possibly come in here. Alright. Well, I'm not hating it right now. This vibe will really come together once we get rid of these for sapling fields at level 2. You're going to have to bear with it for the time being. But what we can come to appreciate is the wonderful world of forestry fencing. Because we're going to run a whole border around the edge of the facility using this. It's a really nice fence, definitely one of the better ones going. So we'll just run it into the grid and then just get a curve, hook it all in. And that'll give us a nice little boundary around the edge of it. Tremendous. So of course these are all going to slowly stock up with resources from these ones over here, which is fine. And then let's also throw down a log yard too. So we have some storage. Let's go ahead and get that one, small log yard. And I'd like to again position this with this in mind. So let's see if we can line them up. I'm going to pause it and turn it off because I don't want the rush of traffic to come in. What we'll do is we'll wait until these are complaining of not enough places to store it, and then we'll turn it on. That way we avoid the mad hectic rush from the highway like we experienced with our farm over here as well. Okay, I'm aware we have some garbage problems over here. It's just the park assets. But we're also having some education problems, are we? Why? What's wrong with you? What do you need? Highly educated. So we're now starting to want university demand. So possibly next episode we can look at building that campus maybe. Yeah, I think we will do the campus next episode. I've got a really fun idea for the campus, by the way. It should be fun. We're going to sort of tether it into like an agricultural college, just up adjacent to the farm. Kind of have an idea in mind for that. That should be a really fun build. Alright. Cool. So I would also like some more processing here. Let's go ahead and get some more tree plantations down. That is going to block me, but we can actually remove that without too much fuss. Which is fine, so we can do that. Yep, so let's place those there. Okay, and then can we get some behind? Yes, we can. Let's do that as well. So lots of small tree plantations here. It's going to give us lots of worker spaces. I will remove these eventually. Actually, no, I'm going to keep these ones in at the back. It's the ones at the front I'm going to change out. And eventually what we should have is like a layered forestry area with what I'm envisioning for it. But we'll get there eventually, of course. So let's see what's coming here. See, stuff like that, that's absolutely perfect for me. A little bit of vanilla forestry in with the industrial stuff. It's going to function really nicely too. See if we can bring that road back up and then start generating some other structures from the vanilla pool. Maybe a little bit more in here as well. Some different sizes perhaps might be welcome. So we'll see how it goes. We will see how it goes. How are we doing for education demand? We definitely need a high school, don't we? And water as well, it would seem. Okay, so let's just chuck a high school here. We will come to develop a high school campus once we return to this side of the city. For right now, we're not there. And a new water tower is also needed. So why don't we include this? Be a little bit noise pollutive there, perhaps. Why don't we go for there instead? The power should jump through. There we go. Everyone happy now? Yes, they are. Wonderful. Cool, so that's kind of it really. We've got the capacity for 312 workers now, we only need 150. So I will be right back once we have ticked over to a level 2 forestry area. And wonderful, welcome back to a level 2 forestry area. So that unlocks us some new things. We do get the worker barracks now, which can be one of the harder buildings to place actually from the Industry DLC. Biomass pellet plant as well is always fun, alongside some sawdust storage too. But these are the things I'm very happy to have, these little sapling fields here. So let's get rid of the tree plantations at the front. Okay, we're going to get rid of them all. And then let's do small tree sapling field up this way. We'll save some walkability spots around it too. So there's a couple of different skins we can apply to this one. There is a greenhouse variant, which is exactly the same as the other one, but has a little greenhouse on it. which is nice. I do appreciate that aesthetic, and we might have some of those around, but I think just for flanking the arterial as we come down into the forestry, this is a very cute aesthetic, isn't it? Okay, perhaps they're planted here and then moved on to a different part of the forestry plantation once they reach a certain maturity, perhaps. Right, and eventually once we get our pulp mills behind it at level 5, this should really start to look pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to it. But either way, so far, everyone is being supplied, which is great. So let's see what else we've got as well. Let's actually start setting up the road network now to hold a couple of biomass pellet plants. So one-way systems are always really fun. We've covered them several times on the channel before about how to use them effectively and sort of where's the best place to put them. So we'll bring in a little one-way loop here. I'm not overly bothered about the size of it, to be fair. Let's go for that one there, and then hopefully it's going to come up together. There we go. Change its loop back again. So they're going to turn in here, and then they're forced to do one loop around it because these can draw a fair bit of traffic. So a little bit of one-way can always help just disperse the pressure a little bit. So the biomass pellet plant is going to be producing paper for us. We're of course producing plain timber from the sawmills. Okay, so why don't we have this up against our highway? A very cool orientation, isn't it? I think positioning larger assets like this against key infrastructure adds so much into a build, like really quite a lot. Okay, and then let's see what's going on here as well. So I think I'd just like to bring this back a touch. I think it's a little bit too wide, so I'm going to knock it back to about there, I think. And then I'd like a second biomass plant. Oh, I want it one more because I want that 3 deep in that one spot. Right, let's go for that one. There we go. That's what I want. So I'm going to place in 2 biomass plants. Okay, these guys are going to want a raw resource. The industry area will eventually give it to them. But then let's grab ourselves some gravel pathway on a grid fill. And then we'll just wrap this up now around the back of our assets. We'll also complement this with a little bit more generic industry zoning. Let's make sure that we keep our industries nice and balanced. Okay, see there, that's perfect, isn't it? So that's actually classed as a business with 2 people working at it. But it's basically prop detailing in the vanilla game, which is so hard to achieve for industry areas because we don't get access to the vanilla props for some very strange reason. But we can work around it occasionally. Okay. We also got some new storage here as well, sawdust storage. And so I'm going to put this here so it can continually supply all the biomass stuff, but I'm going to turn it off for the time being so we don't get the big rush. Alright? Cool. So, just got to wait now for level 3. That should be all the requirements. Yes, we're well over the worker capacity. That should keep coming in to fulfill the industrial demand. And then again, just a process of waiting for the resources to tick over. So I will see you guys at a level 3 forestry area. We're also getting some little death spikes over in this part of the city as well. So I think we're going to drop in a cemetery here for the time being, and then also an elder care just across the road, just as a reminder as to what can happen if you're not careful. So we're at level 3, where to be honest not too much really happens at level 3, kind of similar with the farm as well. It's kind of the limbo phase between getting the late area assets and the early game stuff. But there are a few things we want to place, including the large log yard. So this is another storage building, okay? So I think we're going to leave this one on, we'll start letting this one fill up, and then we'll turn the other ones on as well. But this one here is just sat on a little bit of a hill, so I just want to terraform that off, okay? And also soften it out a little bit as well. There we go. So again, it's all about positioning, right? So I'm positioning this here because as people drive off of this interchange, I'd love to see that aesthetic of stacked cut logs. It's very much just going to hammer home the fact that, you know, this is a forestry area as you come past it. And then that also looks like a pretty nice place as well to wrap up our forestry fence in with the current pattern over this side. There we go. Tremendous. We could also add in another little highway sort of access road here. If the traffic starts to get horrific around this roundabout, it's definitely worth siphoning a little bit of the industrial traffic straight into the highway, but it's not needed right now, so we'll just leave it. I would like to come in and do some detailing around the start if we could. So we saved ourselves a room for a little bit of a pathway. So we'll bring this in into various places and then start to fill out bits up here. And then let's get some more of that generic industrial zoning down too. So we can play with these assets. Try and keep your sort of zonings of this pretty sporadic. It can be relatively hard to do, but you'll get there eventually with it. Okay, and a little bit more forest. I think I'm happy with that. Also, do we have the room here for maybe one of the large plantation or the mediums that we just unlocked? Yeah, we're a tile too deep. We could switch that out. I think I'd rather, again, wait for large sapling fields though if we're going to put anything down here. So sometimes we're going to get these vanilla trees coming in. I don't really want these, to be honest. We'll see if we can wait for something else to come in. See, does it massively change its spawn pattern if we remove the resource from under it? What happens if we go here, I wonder? And maybe a little 2x3 there as well. Is that going to do us a job? I don't mind it. It has its place. Let's try some different sizes here as well. See what comes in. There we go. That's what I'm really after, right? Those lines of little cut logs there. That's going to be quite appropriate for me, I think. And then let's also sort of polish this off with a little bit of forestry fencing over here as well. Okay, and then perhaps a little content creator tree pattern against the fencing. Should do us a decent enough job, I think. So of course the forestry, here you go, here's all the stupid import traffic, you see? Because people have this one on. You idiots. Just calm down. Follow a schedule. And you'll be alright. No, don't worry about this. It's just because we've got the storage buildings down. It will eventually subside. Just give it a bit of time. Okay. Wonderful. But I'm happy with this now. Starting to get a little bit more personality added into these areas and really enjoying the view from the main road here as well. Integration of that vanilla industry. Tree plantations over here too. I think what we might even do as well, either side of the plantation, is to kind of give it like a very obvious border. So why don't we remove some of the trees here? I actually don't want the zoning on this side of the road anymore. So we'll get rid of it. And then let's do a little dirt path pattern here. Actually no, let's go one further tile away from it. Then we'll go down here. And then we'll just give that tree area there a little bit of forestry fencing alongside of it. And then we'll leave that clear run up. So like, you know, it does look like it's land that's maybe been deforested. Like there is very clear cut away trees before the harvesting process starts. So that could be an appreciated aesthetic with forestry as well. But either way, we're waiting for the important assets at 4 and 5. So we'll be right back when we get there. So here we are at now a level 4 forestry area. So let's see what we have unlocked to play with. So we have the forestry maintenance building. So this is going to give a 5% buff to the storage capacity of industrial buildings, which is fairly tasty. I can't say no to that. Let's just take a look at this piece first of all. So super nice looking asset, this one. I really like this asset in particular, and I think I want the back end of it orientated up against this highway. So let's see what we can do to accommodate that orientation. Go ahead and grab a little road here, and hopefully this should be enough depth against the highway to place it. No, we're slightly too shallow there, so let's move that holding frame a few tiles further up. Remove anything that's going to stop us from placing. Yeah, this is perfect. So let's go for... We'll have 2 of these, and we'll just go for side by side for right now. That should also allow us to just add power there. Wonderful. So let's see what we think of that. Too bad, is it? I think maybe perhaps one of them could do with shifting the angle. So let's see which way we want to do that. Why don't we go for this one instead? So bring it a little bit further. You can see the depth here is going to be like 480. So let's go from this one here down to 480 there. Should do us a nice little flipperoo. There we go. And then we can bring it across like that. Maybe a touch closer towards the highway. Just redraw that in. There we go. You know, just playing around with angles and different positionings like this can really just trigger that little bit of inspiration, or, you know, just sort of ping off that point that you're trying to find. It really works for me. So you can see now, right, let's take a prime example of this. So we're driving down our highway and we see all this industrial infrastructure here. You can see back into the tree plantations behind. Those chopped logs are also making an appearance. You know, and then we carry on further down, and then there's definitely some like larger industrial assets here, okay, sort of sat very grandiose up against the highway here. And of course, want to detail it all up with lots of fencing. It's going to settle in really nicely, hopefully. Hopefully we can just connect all these together and then I'm not sure where we're going to run this. I imagine probably parallel with the highway, at least for a little bit. I think I'd also like a walking pathway over here too at some point. And maybe back into from this area here. We'll have a look at that in our detail time lapse for some walkability, because technically you actually can't walk to work here because you're crossing highway roads. So we definitely want to address that with a little walking pathway here. Otherwise, let's see what else we unlocked. I think we also got the engineered wood plant as well, didn't we? Yes, we did. So this is going to turn more plain timber for us than the sawmills. So we could replace a sawmill with this. We will lose some zoning because of it though. So let's see if we can find somewhere else for it. It's also connecting these frames now as well. And then why don't we go for another little facility? Okay, so I'm saving this space here for my pulp mill. Right, I want this to sit within this area here. I think I'm okay with that. Right, of course, yes, you will get resources eventually. And then let's give you another larger block here. And then we can complement this with some more walking pathway. Makes a world of difference just having that sort of dirt texture sort of everywhere when you're playing without Surface Painter in vanilla. Alright, that's... yeah, it's not too bad. I do appreciate the aesthetics of the cut logs out the back as always, I think. See if we can get another one in here. Cool, well let's check the function of the forestry area here. So all of it is own production now, yeah, so we're not importing anything anymore. It is all of our own production, and it's making a pretty tasty profit. But of course we'll get it to level 5 eventually. And then it'll all come together, I think. So that's really the only asset we're waiting for now, isn't it, is the pulp mill at level 5. What's the criteria for level 5? To hit 800 workers. We can do that by spamming production, and then we've got a fair while to wait yet for 13,500 units produced. So this actually feels like a good place for a detailing time-lapse then. I will place the pulp mill as it hits level 5, because that's really all we're waiting for now. But we can start detailing it while we do wait for it to take over. So I'm going to bring in lots of fencing around the whole facility, give it that sense of perimeter, and then I also want to see if we can bring a walking pathway over from this suburb over here, because like we said, we can't walk here at the minute. And then complete the fence all around the edge, bring in some trees around this way. I also want to bring a bus line over from our transport hub over here. I want to feed this over into the forestry area so workers can take public transport out here if they want to. And then I'll probably also drop in some car parking from the carport so there's workers have somewhere to park. And then generally tie in overgrowth, detailing, and just let this little sort of, well, it's quite enormous actually, isn't it? Just let this huge facility settle into the area. And then also as well, I might include, if it's needed, some more garbage processing in here. What are we like? Yeah, we're probably at the point now where another recycling centre is wanted, and I don't think there's a reason why it can't be factored into an existing industrial build, right? Sort of nice way to bring services in that aren't always just out on their own. So I'll probably find a place for the recycling centre to settle in here as well. But really fun builds, forestry, probably the most pretty of all the industries. So let's detail it up and then see what it looks like when we come back. Okay guys, let's have a detailing review. So along the edges where we didn't have enough room to place another plantation, done some staggered patterns of wild hedging to try and match what's happening with the other saplings. Just so it kind of fills out a little bit of a pattern, a little bit of a walking pathway in there as well. And we can see the effect of all those little mini zonings in effect now, right? All this little prop work around the edge of the sawmills, which really helps add a lot to it. We're severely missing access to industrial props in the vanilla game. So it's nice to have some of those in. Anyway, I have drawn out a little bit of population here. It's not much. We will definitely rework this population center as we come to build this side of the map. But I just needed some workers because the population demand was spiking. So just some generic zoning until we come to work on that. And along the edge of this little zoning of suburbia here, we just added in a bus pedestrian road. And then this little articulated bus here, little orange one, heads all the way back to our transport hub over in the center. Converging with tram lines and cycle lanes as it goes, of course, as always, like we'd like to converge. Then what we will do is we'll use the opposite lane here to actually send a bus out into the town that sits over here. So again, so it's going to be a nice little convergence between bus points. But yeah, nice little bus turnaround point with the sort of bus plaza here. I think it's a nice way of using those roads. And then I just love the look of the facility, especially with the pulp mill towers behind it now. Great look, that, isn't it? I absolutely love that sightline. That's really cool. Either way, we'll head into the facility where we've expanded out with some large sapling fields, this time with their greenhouse skin selected, which is really nice, right? And again, I wanted that kind of sprawl of produce up before you actually reach the main processing facility, which you can see behind now, right? Mix and match of industry assets and vanilla zoned industry. Really cool. I love the sight lines around the facility. There's several of them. Including the view down to the garage here with the maintenance building at the end of the road. There's also one with some pathways here between the saplings where we've got a little vanilla zone in there. So there's some really cute views all around the facility. As we head further into it, we arrive at some more prop work, which is again achieved by doing these little 2x2 deep generic zonings with the forestry specialization. So it looks like, you know, things that are being cut and processed here are just being stored on the grass outside while it's waited for collection or delivery or whatever. You know, you can be creative with whatever you want to do here. It also dropped in the wood chip storage as well, which as you can see is still filling up. So people will slowly go away here as this reaches maximum capacity. We will have a brief window, or a brief look over the industry window, I should say. So very little import, and most of it is our own production. 2,000 weekly profit, and you can see now, I've been sat here with the game on 3-speed just detailing away for a few hours, and we've just got nearly like 4.5 million in the bank, which is crazy for episode 6. But you know, when you slow right down and detail, you accumulate so much more money, and yeah, it's nice. And then some overgrowth with some fence patterns to fill the spaces left over in and around the biomass plants. And again, just some little industry tucked in here. It helps with the props and a little bit of a variation in the prop layer, and I just think it looks really cute, right? We've got a great drive-by here now. This huge kind of sprawling industrial facility that sits next to the highway, and that pulp mill is just my favourite asset in the game, I think. I absolutely love the pulp mill. Just such a nice looking factory building. Just sits in really nicely as well, doesn't it? I love this view. It's great. I love building forestry areas. And then down here again, we've got those orientated maintenance buildings, which again, I hope you agree, add a really nice vibe as we look through to the fields there, a little bit more zoned industry. Recycling centre in here as well, all helping to detail and add more sort of form and factor to the forestry area, I suppose. Then as we head over this side, we do have some farm fencing on the curve of the slip road back onto the highway, which is great. And traffic's still wonderful around here, and this is a really busy network now. There's lots of people coming and going from here. Lots of heavy industry traffic, which is good to see, of course, but we want to make sure we manage that traffic properly. And then again, you can just see, you know, you're driving past and you get a little peek through the tree line there to see more towers and lots of chopped logs ready for processing. Just it's all about the orientation, right? really is. And then we return back to the roundabout here, where again we have more for zoned industry for the forestry stuff mixed in with our sawmills. And then I've also dropped in as well, because we did need another power source. We have got in the geothermal power plant, which I'm relatively sure is from the Green Cities DLC, but the little graphic on screen will be telling you guys exactly what it comes with. But yeah, it's a perfect match with the pulp mill, is it not? Okay, just next door to it like that. Makes it look part of the same facility. I'm absolutely on board with that, okay? That is a great combination. It looks like it fits in and absolutely has purpose in here as well. Whilst also boosting our power by a pretty significant amount as well, so we won't need another power station for a long time now, probably until we come to build the main power plant, to be fair. If not a few more wind turbines in between. But otherwise, guys, that is going to do it for today. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please leave me likes, comments and shares below. It really helps bring more people to the channel. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, then feel free to leave me a dislike as well. I really do enjoy piecing together these green forestry areas, and we've got so many different forestry designs on the channel now, from Palavans and Novarias, especially the one in 5B1C. That was a real firm favourite of mine as well. Either way, I hope today's build guide has managed to serve as some sort of inspiration. Massive thanks for all the growth on the channel. There's so many comments, too many for me to read. It's crazy. Please keep them coming. It's making me just smile so much to see how much you guys are engaging with the series and how much you're enjoying Vanilla City Skylines. Still, right, nearly 8 years, this game is still the best. I absolutely love it. And I'm glad you guys are as well. I've got so many more builds planned for this series. I want to do some cool network stuff. We did hit the train milestone during the detailing time lapse, which you guys probably wouldn't have seen because it was fairly late into the footage. So we will have trains to play with from next episode, but I definitely want to work on a campus soon as well. So more episodes for you guys. Please do enjoy your cinematics, but otherwise I will shut up and I will leave it there. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.